Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 299th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We are holding by Parshat Bereishit. Parshat Bereishit, a packed part of the beginning of the book of Genesis, all about creation, right? Everything created, sun, the moon, stars, crawly things, animals, man, right? You got Shabbos created or put in the world, right, so to speak. You got man in Garden of Eden. You got the story of the snake. You got Cain and Abel. I mean, a lot here. So Torah says, chapter 1, right, chapter 1, verse 30. It says, in every beast of the earth, every bird of the sky, everything moves on the earth within which there is a living soul, every green herb is for food, and it was so. Right? That's what the Torah says. Right? It says it was so, and then it says God thought he made both was very good, right? Everything was finished, creation, and there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. But what does it mean over here? What does it mean over here that it was so? Right? So let's analyze. What does it mean? Right? So it says, Moy Rebbe, Arav Agon, or Moshe Storm, this should be well. Brings down his commentary on Chumash and Chochmah V'das. And he brings down the Torah, the son of the Rosh, right? And he says, what does it mean by Yichichen? Right? By Yichichen, that in it was so. So he says, the time of Adam Rishon, the first man, we're talking about a case where man's not allowed to eat meat. Right? Forbidden to eat meat. The vegetarians say, see, much higher level, be vegetarian, right? So at the beginning, they weren't allowed to eat meat. Not only that, but they had no desire to eat meat. Right? Today, so he wants to say, just like we don't have a desire to eat flesh. We don't eat, to eat man's flesh. No one's got that desire today. I mean, except for some cannibals out there somewhere. Right? But in general, we have no desire to eat flesh. Not for the fact that we would need a command, right? That'd be obvious. No one really has a desire, to eat human flesh. So too, says the Ramban, says Nachmanides, later, chapter 9, verse 5. Only when God permitted animals for eating, which we're not allowed to abuse them. We'll see. Some may say that this is abuse. We'll see. But if we're allowed to eat animals, then what happens? Then we had time. We had desire to eat them. But before that, just like human flesh, didn't have a desire for that. We wouldn't have a desire for regular meat in general. Before it was permissible to eat it. So now he says, but if you look at the claim, why people say you shouldn't eat meat. Right? All the PETA pet activists out there. Right? Cruelty. Right? All be cruel to animals. That's true. Right? But maybe they'll make the claim that you can't eat meat. Why? It's cruel. You're killing the animal. That's cruel. Even though we use a very sharp knife. And the very sharp knife, what does it do? Kills instantly. How can that be cruel? Could be, they'll say, wow, killing animals in general is cool. Doesn't matter. But, the way we do it, it's very, very, very quick. So he says, we're going to prevent it from that. We're going to nullify their answer here because they're going to say it's cruel. Right? They're going to say it's cruel to kill the animal for what? For our stomachs to eat. That which he explains. You have to remember, until we have that desire to eat, that's true. Right? In other words, before we have the desire to eat, did we, were we going to eat it? No. But now that it's permissible to eat, we have the desire to eat. So maybe it's cruel. Maybe it's actually cruel because what are we doing? We're stuffing our faces this is an act of cruelty, we're stuffing our faces. Right? Maybe they're right. But if God already said it's permissible to eat meat, what did that do? Essentially, that changed the nature of animals. Right? Change their nature. It's a totally different thing now. Right? So now what's the purpose here? What's the purpose of eating meat? He says the purpose of eating meat is for us to enjoy. Right? But even if we enjoy it, what happens? Essentially, what happens is they're suffering at some level. Even if it's minimally, they're still suffering. Right? So we can say the same thing. A person undergoes an operation. What happens when you go under an operation? The person's going to scream, unless they knock him out. The person's going to scream from pain. They're going to say, it's cruelty. What are you doing? Cutting their flesh. What are you doing? And what's the answer? What's the simple answer? Simple answer is not a problem. Because that person doesn't understand how he's being ill. Doesn't understand. Right? In other words, they're cutting him up to save him. Right? That's the intention. Oh, you got to say, hey, it looks very cruel. No one's going to say it's cruel over here. You're just saving the life. So you see as well, that's the purpose of the animal that we're allowed to eat. In other words, the animal is for our purpose. We're allowed to enjoy it. You know, as long as we don't abuse it, it's not called abuse. And all the more so, what's the animal fitting for? To eat. So therefore, there's a blessing here. Because when a person eats, he elevates the animal. In other words, it's ritually slaughtered. There's a blessing made at the very beginning when the person ritually slaughters. And what does that do? That person can eat the animal. That animal has a purpose. What's the purpose? That animal was elevated for us to eat. And anyone who's going to claim, oh, I can't do that. Why? Because that's a very act of cruelty. Right? They're going to say it's cruel. And they're not going to say it's our benefit, even if it's very tasty. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. It's like you're using it, it's got no purpose. You're using it for nothing. Right? In other words, they're going to say filling your stomach's not a good enough reason. That animal didn't deserve it. On the flip side, we're going to say, no. This animal is used to a higher benefit. What's the higher benefit? My stomach. You can say, I understand it better if you're telling me it's a sacrifice. You're going to say, why be archaic, go back to sacrifices? Because that sacrifice is going to God. It has a higher purpose. This meat has a higher purpose going to my stomach, give me, to give me fuel. Now, even though it says a fool is not allowed to eat meat, as Gemara Pesachim says 49b, that has nothing to do with the animal person. That has nothing to do with the animal that, oh, we're going to say by him, he can't eat meat. They say the vegetarians are right, it's cruel, this, that, can't eat meat. No, it has nothing to do with the meat. Nothing to do with the animal, it's the person. Why? Because the Jewish people accepted the Torah. This person doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. Right? He doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. So he himself, he don't keep Torah mitzvahs. What happens? What's your status? Your status is no different than an animal. You're like an animal. And therefore, how could you eat an animal? How could the Samar is full? Person doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs. How could this person eat an animal? He himself's an animal. He's no different than an animal. Got no morals. He's got no guidance. So an animal can't eat an animal in this case. That would be forbidden for him. So the Quran, right? Elijah Vilna was the memory. More than 250 years ago, explained that when the meat is killed in the right way, the animal's killed in the right way, then it has the ability to fill up a person's stomach. It has the ability to fuel him, and that's a good thing. Right? But it has to be someone who's holding by Torah mitzvahs. If you're not holding by Torah mitzvahs, you have the status of an animal. That's what you are. You're not keeping God's law. You're doing whatever your desire tells you. You're no different than an animal. So how can an animal eat an animal? In this case. Right, so he says, there are those that are going to say, you're going to have compassion on the animals, you can't eat them. You shouldn't kill them and eat them. But again, how do they live their lives? They're saying this is so cruel, but they themselves look like an animal. They themselves look like an animal. So therefore, it's not fitting for them to eat it. So what do we see? We see the Nazis, Yamach Shemam V'Zichrom, and then may their name be blotted out, may they rot wherever they are. They were supposedly the most sophisticated people at that time. In secular knowledge. Right? And they would say, our shrita, our ritual slaughter is forbidden because that's cruel. Killing animals, that's cruel. Yeah, but they themselves starve people, send people into a fiery furnace, kill children, tens of thousands, millions of children. They think anything of it? No. But they wanted to show. They wanted to show to the world, look how compassionate they are to animals. They treat Jews worse than dogs. Totally worse than dogs. Right? But on the inside, they're cruel. They're not even humans. They're animals. So at the end of the day, right, at the end of the day, we got an issue here. Right? Right? What is the issue? The issue is we're eating it for the sake of heaven. Right? We're eating the animal for the sake of heaven. What do I say? That's not cruel. Totally not cruel. Why not? Because it's got a purpose. It's got a holy purpose. And that purpose is my usage. I can eat it. Right? There should be no issue for me to eat it. People are going to say it's cruel to kill them anyway. So what? And we're allowed to. The ritual slaughter, kill them instantly. Not a problem. That's not called cruel. So even though you say, wow, still it's going to be a little bit painful for them, even a little bit, they have to look at it like a doctor has to cut up a person in order to save them. Right? But what's the purpose of eating here? Not just to eat and be ravenous. The purpose of eating is, if I can have a desire to eat meat, it makes me stronger. Right? That's not cruel over here. Why not? Because the meat has a purpose. The meat has a higher purpose. Right? Nothing to do with being cruel. They're going to say it's an act of cruelty. Even if you kill it, you're going to say it's an act of cruelty, even to do it in the minimal way that they don't feel the pain. but even according to them, they're going to be consider it cruel. That's why an Amara doesn't know anything, and they transgress the Torah. Why should they eat meat? Well, are they any different than any animals? They're no different. So the permissibility comes after the fact. Comes later. Man's not allowed to eat meat at the beginning. True. Not allowed to kill them for food. Right? That's true. But later on, it's permissible. So if it's permissible, I don't have to worry about people going to say it's cruel or it's not cruel. Because if it's cruel, you can say then we're going to suffer a little bit, maybe. Okay. Maybe a drop it's going to suffer. But it doesn't matter. Because of the higher purpose. And the higher purpose over here is for myself, I get benefit. That has a purpose. Now, some may say that's not a good enough purpose. Okay, let them say what they want. That's a purpose, though. Satisfies my needs. That's not cruelty. And animals, you're not allowed to be cruel anyway. Some say it's a Torah prohibition, rabbinic prohibition. This is what God told us to do. Right? This is how we're supposed to ritually slaughter, which is very complex. So they'll say it's cruel anyway. But he takes a very sharp knife. What's going to happen? Right? What's going to happen is sharp knife over here is going to kill it. It's going to kill it instantaneously. So I can use it for myself. That's very good. And that is not considered cruel. So I remind everyone of class 2 to the heart every Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern time.